I guess we'll go ahead and get started. My name is Rene Ramos. I am the director of the archives department at Miami-Dade College, and we have two organizations that we are kind of like the umbrella for. So the first one is the Miami-Dade College Archives, the archives of Miami-Dade College, everything regarding the history of Miami-Dade as an institution. So that goes all the way back with our collections to 1960. And we have a very large collection of photographs, some audio, some video, and some artifacts related to the history of the college. And we very recently, as part of the investiture of President Pumariega, had a exhibit at History Miami Museum where we were able to pull from the collection and have a display for the public of material related to the history of this institution. The second organization is, and it takes me a while to say this, but it's the Lynn and Lewis Wolfson II Florida Moving Image Archives, but we always shorten that to Wolfson Archives, and we're a film and television archive going back with some of our material more than 100 years. That essentially is focused on the history of Florida. So what we do periodically, and we've done this workshop for a number of audiences, is we take what we do for those two organizations and for this community, and we try to apply it on a very personal level to what you can do as an individual, because everybody now has some kind of a collection of digital items. It can be on their phone, it can be on their computer, it can be both, and also it can be in the cloud. And also people can sometimes end up becoming a historian for their families. In other words, you get custody of photographs, of documents, important things like marriage licenses and certificates from your grandparents and things like that. So what are some of the things that you can do to do what we do on a large scale, but for you to do them in a personal way? So what we're going to do today is just go through a couple of things that you can do yourself to protect your personal collections and to make sure that they last and that you're able to pass them along to future generations. So I'm going to play a little video that's just kind of gives you a little more information about us visually. So that does kind of go by very quickly, and it flashes a lot of the material that we've collected. But as you may have noticed, there's a lot of things that are just very community oriented, but also a lot of like personal films, home movies, and things like that. So let's go to, this is just a little link to our website. And if you want to come and kind of explore what we do, you can go to this website and you'll be able to get into some of our collections. And then if there's something that you're interested in using a little more, I'm going to be doing a talk tomorrow on using material from our collection and how you do requests of material, because we end up serving a large community that includes filmmakers and people all over the world who are interested in using the material to tell their stories. So we want to be able to make that available to you as a resource. Just check into us, dive into us as an organization. If you want to come and actually visit us, we are on the Wolfson campus on 2nd Avenue, and I put this little picture up so that you can see we're right by the McDonald's there on 2nd Avenue. If you go into this building and come up to the 4th floor, you can come see the collections. It's always a little better if you can let us know that you're coming by in advance, because we're probably going to be able to be a little bit more accommodating to anything you might particularly want to see, but you're always welcome to come by. We were originally part of the Miami-Dade Public Library, and we were over there, but we have since 2009 been here on the campus. We have 23 million feet of film and 35,000 hours of videotape. So come by and see us in room 8406. So what is personal archiving? I'm going to talk about a little bit about what we do organizationally, but personal archiving is a branch of archives, and it can touch on genealogy, and it focuses on the capture and preservation of an individual's personal papers and other documentary output, generally by the individuals concerned. It's related to family history, and it's about just preserving the legacy of a person and their family and their immediate circle of people for future generations. That's the big official Wikipedia definition, but just on a more informal basis, it's taking care of your digital stuff, taking care of your memories, taking care of your photographs and documents so that they last, so that if there's any kind of a disaster or anything that might, physically damage your home or where you stay, your actual memories and your whole footprint, if you will, digitally is preserved. Why would you want to do this? So, there are important reasons to do it. It's number one, to build and preserve your personal memories. If you think about it, if you're walking around and you are carrying every photo that you've taken and it's only on your camera, if something happens to your camera or your phone, you've lost a whole bunch of stuff. And unfortunately, and I've just run into lots of people with whom this has happened, priceless memories. So it's important to try to preserve it as a function of preserving your own memories, but also preserving family history. Families also have lots of photographs that have never been digitized, and there's no way to preserve them if there should be some kind of a physical event like a hurricane or something like that blows out an entire house and blows all of the photo albums away. If you digitize them, you can actually preserve them. You can upload them to the cloud, and they're safe to a certain extent from any kind of that kind of damage. You can pass on your heritage. But another thing that's important, and I was showing some of the material that we have in the Wolfson collection, a large part of our collection is actually made up of people's personal memory collections embodied by their home movies. What that does is something very important. It actually tells people of the future, and not just your family, but the entire world, a little bit about the time that you lived in. So, a good example is some of the home movies that we have of Miami actually tell the story of this place, what kind of buildings were here, how people dressed, what kind of food they ate, what did they do for fun, what did they do when they got together as a family. And all of those things actually, from a cultural standpoint, are really important. They just tell people, and it's kind of like a window into the past. So if you preserve your material, you could end up informing people in the future about what your generation and what your folks were like. So I think it's a very important thing to do. So I want to play a couple of videos, and these are things that I've curated from YouTube and other sources, but just material that actually kind of gives you some of the background and some techniques for actually preserving your personal collections. And right now we're going to focus mainly on taking things like paper photographs and documents and digitizing them, and also videotapes and things that maybe your parents or people that you know might have lying around that you want to actually preserve digitally. So this first one was actually put together by the National Library of Kenya, and they've done a very interesting amount of work in showing people how to preserve their digital collections. So we'll play that one first.
Hello everyone, my name is Yokao Mutonga and I am the Research and Inventory Manager at Bookbank Trust. Today's tutorial will teach us how to digitize our personal archives at home. As you continue to watch this video, please tag us on our socials on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and even LinkedIn at #BuildYourArchive. Karibu sana, Chao.
Thank you so much, Yokao. Hello everyone, my name is Chao Tayana Maina. You might also know me as Headstrong Historian on my socials. I'm the founder of African Digital Heritage and co-founder at the Museum of British Colonialism. As a historian and a digital specialist, my work focuses on the ways in which technology can help us preserve, document, and share our history and culture. Today, I'll be teaching you how to digitize your personal archives.
So Chao, before we get started, are there any tools or equipment that you need our viewers to gather for this process?
For today's tutorial, you will need a good phone camera. This is anything that can take photos of 10 MB or more that you can use to digitize at home or in your office. You need to be in a well-lit area with natural light, so a space that's not too bright or too dark. You need a flat table or surface for placing your digitized material. You'll need to ensure that this surface has a plain background, so we want to avoid any backgrounds with patterns. You need a simple editing software. This would be for cropping and straightening, and this can be the inbuilt phone editor. And finally, some items to digitize.
Thank you, Chao. As we give our viewers some time to get their equipment together, can you break down for us what archiving and digitization actually mean? Because there might be some of our viewers who may not understand what these two things are.
So what is archiving and why is it important to archive? Archiving is not just something that is useful to professional archivists or people who are working in museums. It's something that could help us preserve the documents in our homes for present and future generations. Generally, we define archiving as a process by which inactive information or data in any format is securely stored for long periods of time. So such information may or may not be used or accessed in the future, but nonetheless, it is stored and preserved in an accessible format. How do we archive in our homes? Now, when we hear the word archive, it might seem big and it might seem intimidating and foreign, and we might just relate it to institutions holding historical records such as the Kenya National Archives. But even within our homes, in our personal lives, we have personal archives. These can be your journals, your photographs, your documents, letters, and any material that is dear to you and your family. What do we archive? We archive photographs, we archive journals, we archive letters, school records such as your report forms and your leaving certificates. We archive cuttings from important publications and anything else that we want to preserve.
And so now that we know what archiving is and why it's important, then what is digitization?
Now, digitization is a process of converting information or items from a physical format into a digital format. By physical formats, we mean things that we can touch, that are tangible like books, objects, or photographs. How do we transfer them into formats that we can share online, on social media, store in the cloud, or even send via, let's say, email?
And now that you've told us about archiving and digitization and what these two things mean, then why should we digitize?
So by digitizing, we are able to create copies of items that can help us preserve this material in the event that the physical copies are damaged. It allows us to make the material more accessible without damaging the actual physical copy over time. So I'd like you to think of an old family photograph, let's say of your grandmother or your great-grandmother. And this is a photograph that many members of the family would like to have in their possession and would like to share with their children and their, their wider circle. So instead of moving the photograph from one location to another, from one home to another, we can digitize it and share it within the family as many times as we'd like to without having to compromise on the condition of the actual photograph. Additionally, if one person happens to lose their digital copy, say their phone gets stolen or their laptop crashes, because we know that technology can be very temperamental, they can always ask someone else within the family to share it with them, or if they have a digital copy, they simply need to download it and save it onto their new device. So in this way, we see the way digitization encourages the longevity of information in different formats and in different places.
You know, one of the things I remember seeing when I'd see archivists and people who used to digitize online, like they had these massive scanners and massive cameras, and is digitization a skill that anybody can perform?
Absolutely. Digitization, just like archiving, is a skill that we can use within our personal homes and lives. And if you think about it, really, we already digitize in one form or another. When we take photographs, when we, when we interact within the digital space, we already have an understanding of what digitization means.
Yeah. Yeah, and based on the digitization workshops that we did together with you on the project, I remember that you mentioned some important tips that we need to always look out for to ensure that we're getting the best quality photos. So can you please share those with our audience for today?
Definitely. So while it is easy to digitize, you have to look at certain factors to digitize well and to create good quality of data. The first one is lighting and glare. So you don't want to use flash, and you want to make sure you're indoors and you are using natural light. The reason why we're using natural light is because we want the digital photo to resemble the colors and the textures of the original photo as much as possible. Additionally, we want to avoid direct sunshine and harsh lights, especially if we're digitizing really old photographs, because this might damage them. The second thing is the framing, and to make sure you have straight edges. Always make sure that the entire photograph is in frame. This means that you can see it from corner to corner. So you need to make sure you're not cutting out any parts of the photograph while taking the photograph. And you would rather crop out unnecessary parts than risk not capturing the photo in full.
Yeah.
If the item has any folded corners or sections, try straighten them out if this doesn't compromise or ruin the integrity of the item itself. The third thing to do would be to check the background and make sure that the item you're digitizing is on a flat surface. Use a plain or single color background, and this makes it easier to crop out any bits that are not part of the photograph, for example, the table. And you also need to ensure that the item is resting on a flat surface.
Right, right.
The fourth thing is the blur. So we don't want to be moving and so that the photo wouldn't be be blurry. So to avoid having blurry photos, try be as still as possible when taking the photograph. And where possible, use a tripod or place your phone on a firm surface, then use a timer to reduce the blur and the possibility of movement. So the fifth thing is the file size. Now, different devices have different quality settings, but whether you're using a phone or a camera, what we want to do is to ensure that we are capturing the photos in the highest quality setting available for the particular device that you're using. So for example, if you're using a DSLR camera, you can shoot in RAW mode to make sure you capture as many pixels as possible.
Yeah. Perfect. Thank you for those tips, Chow. And now that we have made sure to get the best possible environment for our photos, can we now go ahead and take some quick photos?
Absolutely. Let's get to the fun part now.
Okay, so that's kind of an overview. What I did is I did a little search for kind of the state of the art on photo scanning applications, and one of the best ones that I found, you may have used it already or maybe not, is PhotoScan by Google Photos. So I think the presenters in the video mentioned that digitization is often meant using, big, sophisticated equipment, but really you have so much power now in your phone that you carry with you to take excellent photographs of other photographs and documents and digitize them. And there's even some artificial intelligence built into these apps now that will actually improve and take care of some of the issues that they mentioned in that video with things like the blur and the shakiness, but also the cropping of the document. So I'm going to play this video just to give you an overview of what you can do with PhotoScan, which I've actually used it myself, and I found to be an excellent way to capture old photographs and documents.
Hey guys, welcome to Photo Friday. This is Amy Johnson from Maker Mama of MakerMama.com, and today I'm going to be talking about how to digitize your old photos. So these guys, the ones that you have in print from, family heirlooms, if you might have a stash of those, or old photos from you in the 90s. There's me crying as a kid. So whether you use an Android or an iPhone, I have a free app I'm going to show you guys today that you can scan these old photos in a matter of seconds instead of laboriously scanning them on your scanner. This is a quick and easy way to get them onto your phone and share them across the interwebs, whichever way you want. So the app that I'm going to show you, let me hop on over to my desktop. Here's my screen here. This is PhotoScan by Google. So this is a free app. Again, you can download it in the Google Play Store or on the App Store on iPhone. And let me show you how to use it. Let's get where we need to go. Here we go. Okay, so here is the app. And when you first open it, it's going to show like an onboarding video to demonstrate in case you forget, but it's pretty user-friendly. So all you do is you pick a well-lit area. Natural lighting is best, and you want to hold your your phone above your photo. And I find it's easier if I'm sitting down to do it. So all I'm going to do is just snap the photo here. Don't worry about any glares, and then just line up the circles. And this is how the app reads the edges of the photo. And then it's going to turn it in to a digital file. It's got to think for a moment. This photo happens to be of no relation. I found it at a thrift store, I think. And there we go. There's my digital photo right there. And it saves it automatically to my photo album, so I can go in and edit it or share it right from there. And I'm going to show editing one more right here. So here's my crying kid photo, me as a kid on the swing. So a tip here is you want to make sure your photos are as flat as possible. This might, skew the image a little bit, but I'm going to do it anyway just for the sake of showing the quality that it's going to come up with. Again, I love this AI component here. This just takes, just a few minutes to do a bunch of photos. And then you can go watch my other videos to see how to edit them on your phone as well. And there we go. So if you have like a stash of these, you could do this easily in an afternoon. Or if you have photos of old friends that you want to share, you could share that all over the internet if you wanted to there. So I hope that you found that useful, our little photo tip of the day. If you're looking for more photo tips right now, if you want to learn how to do some more great things with your phone, especially your iPhone, head over to makermama.com for a free downloadable tip sheet on taking the best photos with your iPhone. And if you are a San Antonio local, check out my Facebook page and the events.
Well, I don't think any of us are San Antonio locals, but there's some good tips on that website. So I can always share that link a little later on. What I found was that this application is really, really good for scanning documents as well. It works basically for anything in 2 dimensions. Works really, really well. And as you saw, you actually target and you trace the 4 dots that it puts on the image for you, and it is able to extrapolate and just flatten out, even if the image is a little bit curved. So I found that to be really, really excellent. So one of the other types of items that people end up wanting to digitize are videotapes. And want to take a look at how people are digitizing VHS tapes in particular, because that seems to be what's the most prevalent right now. Although these techniques in this next video, they actually work for anything that's, in any format, as long as you have a device that can play the original tape or item and has some kind of a connector for it, like a audio and video connector. You can digitize old family videotapes with this technique. And I think it's important to be able to do it yourself now, because we used to be able to send folks who wanted to do this type of work over to Costco or to Walgreens to have it done, but those places don't provide that service anymore. But this is a way that you can actually still do this, and you can do it at home.
I recently converted nearly 100 old school VHS tapes to digital and learned a thing or two about the process. Whether you're just wanting to convert some old family videotapes or you need to digitize old footage for an upcoming YouTube video or documentary, this video is going to walk you through step by step on exactly how to convert VHS tapes to digital, along with a lesson or two I've learned from my mistakes. To convert VHS tapes to digital, you will need three things: a computer, a VCR player, and a video capture device. Let's start with the video capture device. The device that everybody swears by is the Elgato Video Capture, which retails for about 88 bucks. I really did not want to pay that, so I went to Amazon and I bought one of the top rated generic capture devices for like 15 bucks, and it was complete garbage. I then went back to Amazon, I bought another one for about $35. Again, complete garbage. The software on these generic devices is extremely limited, and the actual cables work only half the time. I can't tell you how many times the screen would just go green or the software would just stop recording for no reason. When you've got a lot of tapes to convert, you cannot afford those kind of mistakes. So I finally bought the Elgato device, and man, oh man, is it worth every penny I paid. Do not buy anything other than this device right here. I will link to it below, and no, this is not sponsored by Elgato. This video capture device works with both Windows and Mac, and the software is always being updated to work with the latest OS on your computer. So here's how you set it up. You're going to plug in the USB cable into your computer's USB port. Then you're going to plug your audio and video cables into the provided audio video extension cord, keeping the colors aligned. You are then going to take the other end of that extension and plug it right into your VCR, again, lining up the colors. I should note that just about any VCR player will work for this process. And if you don't have one, your parents or grandparents likely do. And if they don't, you can always hop on a place like Amazon or eBay or even your local Facebook marketplace and buy one there. Just know that right now, because everybody is still stuck at home, converting VHS tapes has become a big trend in 2020, and therefore the supply is low and the demand is high, AKA a lot of high prices right now. What's happening here is when you put a VHS tape in and hit play, your VCR is sending a signal to what it thinks is the TV, but what is actually happening is it's sending it to your computer and it's being digitized in the process. The free Elgato software you will download will then record whatever footage it sees on the screen. And the recording process is extremely easy, and you do not need to be tech savvy to do it. When you open the software, you'll first need to give your file a name and estimate how long the video is. If you don't know or you end up being way off, it doesn't really matter, so go ahead and just pick any number you want. Next, you need to verify which connection type you are using and what aspect ratio you want to record on. 16:9 is a common aspect ratio for today, as it's a wider screen, but more than likely your VHS tapes were recorded in a 4:3 ratio, which is much more like a square. That is likely going to be the one you select, assuming your tapes are older and were shot on some type of analog camera. You can toggle between the two while your VHS tape is playing, and it will show you a preview of what each one would look like. On the next screen, you're going to verify that your audio is working. And if you don't hear audio at this point, and you know that the tape has audio, you're going to want to double check your cable connections just to make sure that everything is connected correctly. At this point, you've hit the record screen, and as soon as you click that big red button, your computer will start to record whatever it sees in that window. I would suggest unchecking the automatically stop recording option below. The reason this is checked is to prevent your computer from recording hours and hours of nothing after a VHS tape has already completed. But that really isn't a big deal, because as soon as you stop the recording, Elgato makes it extremely easy to trim both the beginning and the end of your video without the need of using any kind of video editing software. The length of time it takes to record a video is the length of the video. So if you have a 6-hour long tape, which I've had several of, your computer will be recording for 6 hours. you likely aren't going to be at your computer that entire time. So because you know you can trim off any extra recording after the tape stops, you can leave your computer and work on other tasks without having to worry about stopping the recording at the exact moment the VHS tape ends. Once you've done that, you're done. You now have a video file on your computer of that VHS tape that you can do anything with. If you're like me and you're recording family videos and trying to figure out a way to distribute to other family members, there's a lot of things you can do. You can copy them to a DVD, but that's already getting outdated as more and more households are moving away from DVD players. You could dump your files onto a Google Drive, and then anybody you share that drive with can access those files and play them on their phone or their computer. I wanted to make my family videos really easy to play, and I wanted them to be playable on a TV. So what I ended up doing for myself was I created a YouTube channel dedicated to hosting my family videos. However, because I don't want the whole world seeing these videos, I made all of the videos unlisted, and then I added them to an unlisted playlist. So the only way someone could see these videos is if they had the exact URL to the playlist, which is something you aren't going to randomly get unless it's shared with you. And because it's YouTube, all they have to do is add that playlist to their YouTube library, and now they can access these videos on any device with YouTube, including their TV. That is assuming it's either a smart TV or their TV has some type of streaming accessory like a Chromecast, Roku, Fire TV, Apple TV, long list of items there. Give this video a thumbs up if it was helpful, and until next time, my name is Brandon Hassler, and this is Tech Audit TV.
So as you can see, there's a real good and elegant solution for videotapes as well. Now, what we've covered are things that start out as analog, as physical objects that you want to digitize. But whether it's that type of object, or if it's pictures that you've already taken digitally, videos that you've taken digitally, things that you have built up in your personal digital collection, either way, you're going to want to have a means of preserving them that goes beyond just your immediate circle. And that's where we start to talk about actually backup methods and having additional places where you store your material. And I'll tell you why this is important. It's important to make sure that your items are physically, at least in one manifestation of them, away from you. We're in Florida. We're in the middle of hurricane season. We know what can happen here just in terms of the weather. If you have, even if you have items that have been digitized, if they're sitting on a computer, if they're sitting on your phone, physically they're vulnerable. So what we recommend for people who want to preserve their material is to do the 3-2-1 backup method. So you have 3 copies of any particular digital item or any item that you have. You have it in 2 different media types, and you have one of them offsite. So we talk about, for instance, maybe your actual physical original might be one of the copies, one of the media type. Then you have 2 digital copies, and one of those digital copies might be on a hard drive or on your computer. And then you actually have one that you move to the cloud. A little bit more about the media types. The 3 that are most common right now, although DVDs, as the gentleman mentioned in the last video, are starting to go out of mode, or have been going out of mode for a while, but they're still a pretty decent storage medium. If you get the archival type of DVD, they can actually still be read, and they can actually still be used. But what we've noticed is that there are a lot fewer computers that are actually coming with any kind of a DVD reader. So what you want to look at also are things like SSD drives, the actual solid state drives, and those are much better than the ones that actually have a spinning disk in them, because they're going to last longer, and anything with fewer moving parts is better for preserving things in the long term. And USB drives, I think these are going to be around for quite a bit longer. So those are good ways of actually physically storing some of your digital files locally. Now, what you can do with the things that you create digitally, whether it be through the photo scanning methods or the video capture methods that we've talked about, or things that are what we say, quote unquote, born digital, if they're already in a digital format, either way, you can have one physical copy that you or one actual physical medium that you store this material to, whether it be an SSD drive or a USB drive, and then maybe you mail something to a family member that lives in another state. But another means of doing that particular thing in that offsite storage that we recommend is by moving things to the cloud. So as Miami-Dade College employees and students, we actually have a nice little benefit, which is the OneDrive. Through our Microsoft package through Miami-Dade, we actually get 1 terabyte of storage, and you can save documents, photos, and videos online and access them from nearly anywhere. I'm gonna have a quick little video that gives you a little bit of information on using that. Now, that's not to say that if you want to use something like Google Drive or Dropbox, those are also very, very good solutions. But if you have this one, which is actually giving you 1 terabyte for free while you're associated with Miami-Dade College, it's not a bad deal. So let's play that video.
As part of your organization's Office 365 subscription or SharePoint server, you can save your files in OneDrive and then work with them from any device. To get started, go to OneDrive in a web browser. Sign in to Office 365, and in the App Launcher, select OneDrive. If you're not on Office 365, use the web address your admin gave you. To add files, click Upload. Or you can drag files from your computer straight to OneDrive. OneDrive supports a wide range of file types, so you can upload and view almost anything. All your files are private, unless you decide to share them. If your organization allows it, you can share with partners outside your organization. The icon and description show you which files you've shared. When you give a coworker permission to edit, you can edit Office documents at the same time and from anywhere, on the web, your desktop, or even a mobile device. Saving your files in OneDrive means your files are secure and available anywhere, through a browser or with the OneDrive app available for Android, iOS, or Windows Phone. You can add, manage, and share files when you're on the go. And with the Office apps installed, you can create and edit Office documents right on your mobile device. You can also sync OneDrive to your PC or Mac so you can access your files even when you're offline. If you make changes to files while you're offline, those changes are automatically synced the next time you connect to OneDrive. For more information, go to aka.ms/learn-OneDrive.
So as I said, OneDrive is just one solution in that whole cloud segment. But I mean, of course, you can use a Google Drive. I use all of them. You know, it's good to have things in multiple places, and it just gives you an added layer of protection that's not necessarily tied to one company or one solution or one way of doing things. The last thing I want to share with you is there is a website that's created by the Library of Congress called digitalpreservation.gov. And it gives you some more information. It goes a lot deeper into some of the topics that we've talked about now, much more so than we're able to do in just this format. But if you want to get a little more deeply into actual nuts and bolts of digital preservation, how to scan photographs, maybe how to use certain more advanced equipment, all of that is here. So with that, if there's any questions, I'll take a quick look at the chat. Okay. Yep. And if anybody has any questions for me, I'm glad to answer them.
Jose, did you have a question about the link to that video that we had played on the digital preservation?
Yes, please.
Okay. Rene, I don't know if you have access to those links that you had shared earlier. One of the videos, Jose might have come in a little bit late.
Okay. Let me if I can get some email addresses, what I can do is I can bundle all of the source materials that I used for this, and I'll send out an email. If you just want to pop your email address into the chat, and I'll collect those, and I will share everything that I used to build this, and I can share a copy of the presentation as well if that helps. Great. So if there aren't any other questions, please, if you'd like to come by, you're always welcome here at the archives. As I mentioned earlier, we are at the Wolfson campus on 2nd Avenue. We actually have our own Metro mover stop. You can take the College Bayside station, get off there, and just kind of loop around past the McDonald's, and we are on the 4th floor of Building 8, and we'd love to show you our collections. So you're welcome anytime. Just let us know. And if there's nothing else, I think that's all for today.
Excellent. Thank you, Rene. I also posted, for those who joined us, if a little bit of a survey. If you could fill that out, take a moment. It just informs us about today's workshop, and then other topics that you may be interested in for future workshops. We'd appreciate that.